Hello and welcome yet again to another shameless clickbait video that's actually, you guessed it, not clickbait. I really did drill a 20-year-old bowling ball, and we're going to check it out now and see how well it's held up and how it compares to today's technology. Before we get started, the obligatory business. Big shout out and thanks as always to Royal Crest Lanes. They're a big part of bringing these videos to you. All it takes is a text and we have everything we need. Also, my code ROSEDOLL10 will get you 10% off your order at checkout at CoolWick, and if you check the description you'll find a bunch of helpful links and information including our personal specs, a discount code for custom ball cups and spinners through Scarred Prints, a discount code for a new affiliation with Free Spirits, which is a non-alcoholic replacement brand, and finally a link to pick up anything you may need at Mart. I do receive a 5% commission on all sales through the link. I'm on the Kegel Chromium lane condition as usual. It's a challenge pattern at just under a 7-to-1 ratio, 42 feet long, 25.5 mils, heavy side of medium for both volume and length. It's not as easy as a house shot, but not as punishing as a sport pattern. So why would I drill a 20-year-old bowling ball? Well, I like my bowling balls like I like my whiskey, aged to perfection. I was super fortunate to happen upon this ball. I got it for a great deal. I'm ecstatic and very thankful to my source who requested to remain anonymous. It's in perfect condition with perfect specs. The scent is still very potent as well, believe it or not. I just can't believe a ball this old can still exist undrilled and in this state. This ball was inspected in July 2003 by inspector number 5, and I had one of these when it was in production. Lots of good memories with it. I do believe I had a handful of good games and sets with it, but it wasn't terribly popular, or at least just not as popular as its predecessors. Clue number 1 is that the core it uses is the original Rad core, which is core tech that we're still using an evolution of today, such as the Rad 4 in the Code series. Clue number 2 is that it also features a particle cover stock, and it might surprise some to learn that this is cover tech that we're still using an evolution of today as well. Particle covers got a bad rap back then for dying quickly, but they didn't stop being used so much as they were just refined and quietly renamed. The first ball in this series was another major step forward for Storm as a company, and was every bit as big as the Virtual Gravity was when it came out almost a decade later. The El Nino series was popular in the late 90s and early 2000s. It was followed by the Trauma series that was also very popular, but the X Factor after that was a huge release. It introduced the RAD, or Radial Accelerating Disc, core tech. It featured Storm's precursor to the Reactor line of covers such as R2S, R3S, etc. in AccuTread Mystic Pearl, and established Storm as a major player in the industry. Now back then, Brunswick, Ebonite, Columbia, and Hammer were the dominant brands, and this was around the time Brunswick introduced the original Inferno too, so you could really consider the early 2000s a golden age for great bowling balls. I won't drag it out any further. You've either already figured it out or weren't around back then and won't figure it out no matter how many clues I drop. This is an X Factor reloaded. So the first point, this ball still hooks. I'd already filmed a couple balls on this lane, so there was a bit of transition to work with, but that actually kind of caused a problem. I absolutely could not strike from the straighter zone. It wouldn't get down the lane, and if it did, it was too slow. It also took some time to warm up. I took it to league a couple days before and it was a frickin' marble, but a few games there and a bit of practice before filming and it warmed right up. Now 20 years ago the ball reaction from the Reloaded was a little more dynamic, partially because I threw it on wood lanes, but again, bowling balls continue to cure as they age, so they get harder and harder, and since hardness has been a super hot topic lately, you all should understand by now how that affects ball reaction. You can actually see the hardness effect on a couple shots where the Reloaded acts like it wants to hook but is a little apathetic about it. It's not necessarily slow or smooth. You can see that it's just not getting positive traction on a couple shots. It looks more like it's being forced to hook by the available friction rather than creating that traction itself, if you get what I mean by that. A couple of the flat shots where it deflects is where you can see it at. You can see it just struggles, and it's visibly different than burning up or just being smooth. When a ball burns up, it just completely gives up and dies, but when it's being smooth, it keeps hooking, it just takes its time doing it. Now the Reloaded, on the other hand, is trying to do something, it's just not quite able to. That's what I meant with my comment earlier about being a marble. Now at the same time, it looks really good on most of these shots, and it gives me a different reaction or look on the friction than other stuff does. The other balls I had out with me during the same filming session, smooth or not, were starting to get wrecked by the track friction. The cover strength combined with the cover being older and a little harder keeps it from overreacting or burning up and gives me a really nice and unique reaction. The Reloaded again featured the original Rad core, which came in at a 253RG 058 differential and an 013 intermediate differential. Medium RG, huge differential, but what they now consider a mild asymmetric due to the medium int diff. This is very similar to the RSTX1, which also had a 253RG, but an 053 differential and an 016 intermediate differential, plus Microtrax is a nano-based cover, which is in a very similar zone as the Reloaded cover, which is the Reload 3 Reaction Enhanced Pearl Particle, a little bit of a mouthful. It's also somewhat similar to a UFO Alert, though the Reloaded cover is actually stronger. Comparing it to the Alert first, the ET core in the Alert had a 252RG 054 differential and an 016 int diff, so virtually the same RG, a little bit less diff, a little bit more int diff. Now the E-Trax cover is what they consider a pure reactive, so it's cleaner, sharper, a more medium strength, and once again the Pearl Particle cover on the Reloaded is more similar to NRG/Microtrax or the nanotechnology we have now. The Alert is cleaner and sharper, Reloaded is earlier and smoother, but the reaction shape on the lane is remarkably similar. You can tell that the Alert is newer and fresher, it's more dynamic, it's more energetic. Now a cleaner cover will do that, it doesn't hook as much in the oil and it's sharper on the dry, but even with a ball that's even more similar like the RSTX1 that I'll show now, you can see the difference in fresh versus vintage. Even if it's marginal, it can make a difference because you've heard people reference new ball carry. The Reloaded kind of acts like a ball that just has a lot of games on it and has settled nicely into a different role. Remember Simo saying at one point that he carried several idols that had different amounts of games on them because the fresher ones will dig more and be more dynamic, while the older ones will give him the same shape but be tamer and more controllable. It's the same kind of idea here. Another point I'll make, since I did have this ball both brand new 20 years ago and again now, people that search for things like a 2012 High Road make me chuckle. It's not going to be the same now as it was in 2012, or in 2015 when you thought they changed something, or in 2018 when you thought they changed something again. Sure, a ball in production that long will start to be produced on new or updated lines, raw materials will change, adjustments will be made to the formula to keep it modern, but that 2012 High Road isn't the same as it was 11 years ago, or 8 years ago, or 5 years ago either. This just goes to show also that bowling ball technology really hasn't changed that much. If a 20-year-old ball can still hang out and look this good, that's saying something. Now at the same time, I think you can also tell that things have improved. I'm not sure how long this cover's going to last. I'm not sure if it's actually going to be in play outside of filming for a video. But I can tell you I'm going to have fun finding out, and if nothing else, I'm sure this is going to be a great niche ball for traveling to out-of-town tournaments on higher friction surfaces. Success is found in balance between the details and ball reaction. If you don't understand ball reaction, typing limited buzzword details onto a spreadsheet isn't going to produce anything helpful. It's just going to confuse you. And at the same time, if you understand ball reaction but don't know how to use the details to create the ball reaction you're looking for, that's no good either. Ball reaction is tricky and confusing, but you have to ignore marketing, buzzwords, nonsense, and avoid latching onto specific things because one pearl ball doesn't equal another pearl ball. One symmetric ball doesn't equal another one. ASIMs, cover formulas, layouts, blah blah, etc. I try to teach the details so that you can understand them and use them effectively, not focus on them exclusively or try to use them like a formula because you think a pearl symmetric ball with a pin-up layout is supposed to mean anything or produce any kind of specific result. You might as well say you want coffee with milk and a flavor shot. What kind of coffee? What kind of milk? What flavor? Do you want a latte, a cappuccino, mocha? Do you want it hot, cold, iced, blended, so on and so forth? You have to understand what all the details mean so that you understand what you're ordering. You can't just pick a couple out and latch onto them, but on the flip side, if you know that you like the taste of some coffee drink you got somewhere but can't tell the barista the ingredients, you'll be just as lost. Thank you for attending my TED Talk, and may the strikes be with you.